Hello, I'm Pete Torriello.
I'm Maureen Torriello.
And we are the Sonic Boomers. And welcome to another edition of the Sonic Boomers podcast. This is program number 87, which means that there are 86 previous shows, and if you haven't heard it before,
it's new to you.
It is. And what are you grinning about?
Just because the way you do that, it's so cute.
She's over here grinning, and I'm like, what did I do? Is my fly open?
What did I do? And this is the last podcast of 2021.
It is. And it is the end of the second year of our podcast. We're beginning our third year. Actually, December was the start of the third year of the podcast.
We already started the third year, yeah.
Also, what is this show about? Well, it's about whatever Maureen and I pull off the top of our heads.
Or sometimes that is somewhere else.
And I wonder where that might be. And very often, straight from the heart. Did I do that right? Does that look like a heart? Yeah, that looks like a heart.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe one ventricle is bigger than the other, but I'm not sure.
Of course, if you're not watching us on YouTube,
that's right. We should point out
meaningless.
that you can hear our podcast on just about any podcast platform that there is now. We're on iHeart, we're on Anchor, we're on Spotify, we're
Apple,
on Schmotify,
Amazon.
Apple, we're on all that. But you can also watch the podcast on YouTube under the Sonic Boomers podcast. You can also watch the podcast on my personal Facebook page, Pete Torriello, Tauriello, Maureen Conroy Torriello, and there's also a separate Facebook page for the Sonic Boomers. So we're not playing hard to get. And our email is thesonicboomers@aol.com.
All right.
Okay,
that's covers
all
it.
of the housekeeping. This week, we want to welcome aboard maybe some new listeners who we are hopeful are joining us from a terrific Facebook page that we found.
And also a podcast community.
And a podcast community.
Called Extraordinary Catholics.
Right.
And Father Jamie Matthias is the pastor of a church, of an independent Catholic church down in Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
And he is the administrator and coordinator of all things under that title, the Extraordinary Catholic.
And he's really cool.
Yeah.
He is really cool.
Yeah, we've gotten to know him kind of virtually, although we have met. I did meet him several years back
at one of our convocations in our church.
Right. So we're really glad to have an alliance with him and with the independent Catholic communities that are reached by the Extraordinary Catholics, podcast and group.
Some of you may be wondering, what is this independent Catholic thing all about? Mm-hmm. Well, to set the stage, one of the fastest growing religious groups in the United States is one that you might call former Roman Catholics.
Right.
People that have left the Roman Catholic Church. And unfortunately, a lot of them have left for sleeping in late on Sunday. They've gone nowhere. A lot of them. A lot of them have gone to the big mega churches. What I often refer to as the I'm okay, you're okay kind of a church. Churches where you get the prosperity gospel. They've gone to any one of many destinations, and some of them may be no religious affiliation, no practice of faith at all. And that's kind of tough.
That is.
That's kind of tough, at least as we see it.
And we are part of that group.
We are former Roman Catholics. We checked the box. We left, I guess we were about 59 or 60 when we left the Roman Catholic Church. And I was a public school boy. Maureen was a Catholic schoolgirl. She knows all the Latin stuff that they sing. I do not. And after 59 years our reason for leaving was manifold. First of all, we could not tolerate the scandals anymore. We couldn't tolerate the clericalism. We couldn't tolerate it being a boys' club. We couldn't tolerate the hypocritical stance on the LGBTQ community. We couldn't tolerate the cover-up.
And the low opportunities for women, they would never ordain a woman.
They would not let priests marry. In the independent Catholic churches, in many of them, I don't know if it's universal in all of them, women may be ordained. Priests are allowed to marry. In many of them, priests do not receive a stipend or a salary. They have to go out and have a real-world job to pay the bills.
Right. And most of the independent Catholic churches are also very welcoming and inclusive of all walks of life and all backgrounds, LGBTQ included. And for all those reasons, we were looking for some other way to worship. And truthfully, we're kind of, even though we've been with this maybe about 8 years now, with the independent Catholic movement, we really didn't know much about it, and we're still learning. So this is not a definitive podcast
Right.
on all things independent, because we don't know everything ourselves. We're learning as we go.
We can only tell you about the church to which we belong, and that is called the American National Catholic Church, which has been around now for, I think, about 15 years, right?
Just close to it,
Right.
yeah.
And we were founded by George Lucy, who is our presiding bishop, Bishop George Lucy. He is the head, the big mahaf, in the American National Catholic Church. And in the ANCC, we have roughly, I think, about maybe, 13, 15 parishes,
I think
ballpark figure, around the United States. And in the ANCC, we do ordain women. We do perform same-sex marriages.
our priests can
Our
marry.
priests can marry. Our priests do not receive a salary. They do have jobs in the real world. One of the priests in our church is an IT guy. Our founder, our bishop, George Lucy, is a clinical psychologist. And that's how they earn their living. And they almost volunteer, kind of, to be part of the ANCC. But they have a mission. They have a commitment. In the ANCC, you do not have to go to confession. That's one of the things that Catholics hate. Oh, God, I can tell you. I'm sure we could do a whole podcast on experiences that we've had in the confessional.
Maybe.
And I've had some good experiences there, and I've had some really crappy experiences in the confessional. And a lot of Catholics will say, well, why should I have to confess my sins to another man?
Right. However, that being said,
Yeah.
Our American National Catholic Church does recognize all 7 sacraments.
We do.
And they are all available to you should you want them.
Yeah, if you want to have confession, any of our priests will be happy to hear your confession, but it's not required. It's not a mortal sin. It's, if you go up and receive and you didn't go to confession, because there is actually a part of our Mass where sins are forgiven.
Right, general absolution is given
in the
at every
beginning of the Mass.
Right.
It's that part of the Mass where you say, I confess to Almighty God and to you, my brothers and sisters.
The penitential rite, if you're so inclined.
Okay. At that point, your priest, your bishop, has the authority to forgive your sins. And in our church, St. Francis of Assisi, American National Catholic Church in Glenbridge, this is done every week. And people will say, well, what's the value of that? The value of it is you get a fresh start every week. You get a fresh start every week. And God knows we're not going to get it right.
Yeah.
We're not going to get it right. But you get a fresh start. You know, as my mother used to say, God forbid, Peter, what happens if you're walking home from school one day and you get hit by a car crossing Princeton Road and you get killed and you didn't go to confession? You know where you're going, Peter? You're going to hell, Peter. That's where you're going. So it's nice to get that fresh start.
It certainly is.
every week, and you don't have to go to confession.
Yeah.
I often like to characterize the American National Catholic Church as Catholicism with a lot of the nonsense and hypocrisy removed, as we see it.
Right. And, you know, just as I don't know what you want to call it, like a caveat here, Pete and I, are not here, or the independent Catholic churches are not here to raid churches. If you love your church, if you get fulfillment and spirituality out of it, and you're happy where you are,
stay where you are.
Stay where you are. We're not trying to rob churches, but we do know from experience and from talking to so many people that there are a lot of people who say, oh, if only priests could marry. If only a woman could be ordained.
If only they would accept LGBTQ and not just say, well, who am I to criticize, as Pope Francis said?
Right.
Who am I to say anything? But if you are accepting LGBTQ, you don't deny them the sacraments.
Right. So, I mean...
you don't deny a sacrament for somebody being pro-choice.
Right.
You know, in the American National Catholic Church, as our bishop would explain it, we are pro-life from birth to natural death. Decisions that are made before birth are none of our business. That is the position in the American National Catholic Church. It's none of our business. We're not in that woman's shoes. We're not in that potential mother's shoes. We don't know what her circumstances are. Mm-hmm. We have no idea. And so how dare we say that it's right, it's wrong, it's sinful, or it's not our business.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot going on here, and we're just trying to put it out there and, explain and also offer some alternatives to some people who, like us, were looking for another way to worship. And I know for me, now it may not have been the same for you, Peter, but for me, it was not enough to just leave Roman Catholicism and join another church. It was very important for me that I remain Catholic. I really believe that the line of succession for Catholicism dates right back to the apostles, and I didn't want some splinter church, or I didn't want to be Protestant, although I guess in a way we are, because we're not, following the Roman Catholic thing. But,
yeah.
I could just as easily have joined a Lutheran church or a Methodist church, and
except that in the American National Catholic Church, we do believe in transubstantiation.
Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying is
whereas
that
some of the Protestant churches
do not. Some do, some don't.
Right.
But so for me, the Catholic aspect was very important, and I wasn't going to leave just to be in a sea of uncertainty. And it wasn't until we first found out about that there was something called independent Catholicism and progressive Catholics. Until we heard about that, we thought we were stuck.
Yeah, we had no idea that there was an exit ramp.
Exactly.
And that, and like Maureen said, we have heard so many of our fellow Roman Catholics say, boy, I wish I had somewhere else to go. Mm-hmm. I wish I had some place that ordained women. I wish I had. It is here in the form of national Catholicism. That is churches that are Catholic, but they are not affiliated in any way, shape, or form with the Roman Catholic Church. The Roman Catholic Church does not have a copyright, does not have a trademark on using the word Catholicism. They'll try to tell you that they do, so to speak, but they don't.
Right. So, it bears some research on your part because it is relatively new, this whole idea of independent Catholicism in any organized form anyway. It's a little hard to find sometimes, and the terrible part of it is that you may find yourself being called in that direction and find that there isn't a church near enough to you to make it practical.
Like for Maureen and I, we were very lucky in that at the time that we left the Roman Church, the exit ramp for us to another church was a 15-minute drive.
Right.
It's now a 45-minute drive. Same church, but we moved. So it's a 45-minute drive, but still it's reasonable.
Right.
It's not like we're driving to Western Pennsylvania. We wouldn't do it. We wouldn't do it. But yeah, that is the problem. People either do not know that there is an exit ramp out of Roman Catholicism to another form of Catholicism, or the exit ramp is so darn far down the road. You know, you're at exit 153 and the nearest church is at exit 1.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a problem. Now, some of these churches do offer Mass online. You can watch, we in the American National Catholic Church, a lot of our churches, including our home parish of St. Francis in Glenbridge, we have it live on Facebook. We have it on YouTube. It's all over the place where you can watch it either live or at your convenience.
Right. And I think with the COVID, more and more churches are exploring that option and providing that for you. So it may, you're going to have to do a little work. It's not going to sit back and plop in your lap. But if that is something that you feel called towards and that has perked your interest, with a minimal amount of searching, you may find some viable options for you.
Yeah, there is an exit ramp. There is a way. In fact, I did an article for the American National Catholic Church magazine talking about finding the exit ramp. And Maureen and I are just in the very, very early stages of our relationship with this Extraordinary Catholics podcast site and Facebook presence. We are in the very early stages, but we are talking with Father Jamie, hopefully about maybe putting some of the articles that we have written into their publication, which would be kind of nice. I really would like to run the one that I did about helping people find the exit ramp.
Right. That would be great. So, if you are looking for more information about independent Catholics, just searching on it on Google and stuff will find you a plethora of information. I'd also like to recommend, this is a book called Islands and Bridges by Reverend Libardo Roca, who also is a co-pastor with Father Jamie down in Texas. And this is a series of essays about some of the milestones in the independent Catholic movement and explaining some of the lineage and the theology behind it. It's a short book, an easy read, and it's I recommend it.
If you took all of the people that considered themselves today to be ex-Catholics, former Catholics, and you took all of the independent Catholic churches that there are out there now, and there's probably hundreds of them, if you put them all together, we would create a very large new religious entity, worship entity. And I know there's going to be people that say, I'm done with organized religion. And we hear you. We get it. But we hope that if you are thinking about looking for that exit ramp out of Roman Catholicism, and again, if Roman Catholicism is cool for you, God bless you. We're not here to raid. We're not here to criticize. We're just saying to you, we couldn't do it anymore. and there is an exit ramp, and we want to help you find it.
If that's what you want.
If that's what you want.
We want to stress that most importantly.
If that is what you want.
We're not here to twist any arms or anything like that. But we know that there are people that are looking, and, if God has put that on your heart, we'd like to help.
We actually found our church.
It's kind of a funny story.
Accidentally, right?
Right.
Why don't you tell the story of how it happened?
Right. A friend of ours, someone that we used to do music ministry with in another church.
Right. In our Roman
days, sent out an email to all his friends, and of course we're on that list of friends, and he's like, be very careful of this church. It is a heretical church. Beware of this church. And he talked about the American National Catholic Church. So I'm like, I never heard of this. So I went and Googled on it, and I looked at it, and it's like, women ordained, check. Priests can marry, check. LGBTQ friendly, check.
Check.
Divorced Catholics welcome,
check.
And I was like,
that's the other thing that we didn't mention in the ANCC. If you are a divorced Catholic, it's not a problem.
Yeah.
It is not a problem.
You can come and receive communion. All are welcome at the table.
We understand that sometimes, in spite of our better efforts, relationships don't work.
Right. So, I mean,
bleep happens.
So I'm looking at the website for the ANCC, and I'm like, this is good. This is good. This is good. And I'm like, where do I sign up? So, because of a warning from a friend, we found the church that we were looking for.
We walked into this church in Glen Ridge, and it's in a little chapel. Mm-hmm. We actually rent the chapel of Glen Ridge Congregational Church. And for now, it's large enough for our needs. And we have a law, like a 10-year lease there or something, I think. And we went in there. And, we'd like to sit up front. No, a lot of Catholics like to sit in the back. Yeah, God forbid somebody asks us something, But we'd like to be up front. And we were singing, because Maureen and I are singers, and Maureen's a musician also. I play the spoons. And so...
He doesn't mean kazoo.
They heard us singing, and they were like, oh, you guys sing. Why don't you get involved in the music here? Because our bishop always says, if you show up once and we see you doing something, we're going to put you to work.
Yeah.
So next thing you know, after a few months go by, we're involved in the music ministry. Mm-hmm. So it's been happened. Almost 10 years now that we're there.
I think it's a little under 10, maybe 8. I'm not sure. I've we started off very gradually. We would go there while we were still members of the Roman Catholic Church, and we would go on, to 2 masses sometimes. We'd go, maybe Saturday night at one and Sunday morning at the other. And as we went more often to the ANCC service, we said, no, this is where we need to be. This is where we're being called. And we kind of severed the ties with the Roman Church eventually.
I think one of the questions that people are going to ask is, I was baptized to Catholic, I was communion, confirmation. What happens if I leave the Roman Catholic Church? Is all of that stuff canceled out?
No, your sacraments are valid forever.
Yeah, no matter what church you go to.
Right.
You could become Jewish, and those sacraments are still valid for you. They don't go away. They are eternal.
And they're outward signs instituted by Christ to give grace.
You see that?
Catechism girl.
Catechism girl here. Baltimore Catechism. Another question is, can they excommunicate me? They can. They won't. As I get my letter of excommunication from the Archdiocese of Newark. No, I have not been excommunicated. Maureen hasn't. Nobody that we know who is in the ANCC or nobody has ever been excommunicated. Because that means they have to get up and do something. You know, they have to contact you. They have to even know that you've left. They don't even know you've left.
Yeah, most
you know?
churches don't even know you by name.
Millions of Catholics have left the Roman Catholic Church. They don't know they're gone.
Yeah.
So how are they going to excommunicate you? And if they do, so what? So what?
Yeah.
And you've heard me say this before publicly. So what? Do you really think that God, in his wisdom, in his love, which Bishop George always says is extravagant for us, do you really think that he is going to let an organization stand between you and his love?
Mm-hmm.
You know, they might like to think that they are the gateway, but they're not. Nobody can stand between you and God's extravagant love for you. No church, no organization, no individual. So if they excommunicate you, you're not going to hell. You're not kicked out of any chance of going to heaven. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. You know, if they want to excommunicate me, I'll say, fine, excommunicate me twice while you're at it. That's fine.
Yeah. I mean, you know, that's, you know,
people worry about these things, you know. And,
yeah, kind of brainwashing, I think.
Well, I think the hierarchy in Rome and in our bishops, I think that a lot of them enjoy having people under their thumb. Having the people under their thumb. You know, how many times have we heard priests who were more progressive say to us, they want you to do three things: pray, pay, and obey. Mm-hmm. And not necessarily in that order.
Right. But, you know, again, there's good and there's bad. And I don't want I don't want it to come across that we're saying all.
Yeah. See, Maureen is always the peacemaker. I am the troublemaker, and Maureen is the peacemaker.
Well, blessed are the peacemakers.
Yes, that's right. I'm just going to hell when all this is over.
So anyway, that's kind of where we're at, and we wanted to share that with you. And like we said in the beginning, we're pretty excited because we've been given a shout out on this Extraordinary Catholics website and podcast, and we really appreciate that. And you know, we thought perhaps that we may be getting some new listeners to our Sonic Boomers podcast through that affiliation, and we wanted to do this episode to kind of orient you and to say hi.
Yeah, and for those of you who might decide to listen to some of the previous 86 Sonic Boomers podcasts, and some of them are also under the title of Mixing It Up with Pete and Maureen, so don't be confused if you hear that. That was the original title of the podcast, and we changed it. But some of those 86 episodes, I should warn you, the language on some of them, especially on my part, can be a little salty because there are some issues that are hot buttons with me, including our decision to leave. There's 2 episodes, I think, that we did on leaving the Roman Catholic Church, why we did it, and where we went.
Right.
And my passion kind of got ahead of me on some of those episodes, and the language does get a little bit salty.
And I wanted to say to you also that our episodes cover a myriad of topics. It's not all religion. So,
no,
you know.
No, it's everything from the ridiculous to the sublime.
It's potpourri.
That's why we say.
For $500, Alex.
Whatever we pull off the top of our heads out of someplace else, and sometimes it's straight from the heart. Some of the episodes that we are really super proud of, The Last Legal Prejudice, which deals with the way that obese people are treated in society, and that it is the last legal prejudice. The other one is based on our personal experience also. It's called Mom and Dad, I'm Gay. And Maureen and I are the parents of a gay son. And we share a little bit about the evening that he came out to us. And I hope that you will listen to it. I think it is our most listened to podcast ever. And as I say in the beginning of it, when your child comes to you and says that, what you say in the next 15 seconds will make all of the difference in the world. I hope you will listen to it. I hope you'll listen to any of the podcasts.
I hope you listen to all of them, yeah. So, does that about wrap it up for this
That wraps it up.
So we have a Baby Boomers trivia
That's right.
question
Every
for you.
show, at the end of the show, we have Baby Boomers trivia. Okay, what you got?
Okay. This is in the RPM category of Baby Boomers. It's music and whatever. What novelty song did Playboy cartoonist Shel Silverstein write for Johnny Cash?
I think I know this.
You might.
A Boy Named Sue.
Exactly right.
All right. All right.
Give
Now,
that man a cigar.
now, I'm going to give you one from LT, I guess, Life and Times, is that? Life and Times. Okay, I think you've got this one. What blonde elf made it big on the Rice Krispies box? What blonde elf made it big on the Rice Krispies box? Your time begins now.
Oh, I didn't know he had a name. But
they all have a name.
I would say one is Snap, one is Crackle, and one is Pop.
Right. Which one was the blonde one?
I don't know. Snap?
Well, you're supposed to know.
Okay.
Snap.
Okay.
Yeah.
Snap. Oh, snap.
Yeah. So that's going to do it for this week's edition of the Sonic Boomers podcast. Welcome aboard, new listeners, and we hope that you will come back often, listen to the legacy episodes, and we will see you again soon with another next year, right? Happy New Year, everybody. Boy, let's hope. Let's pray that we can get rid of this COVID nonsense once and for all. Yeah, I mean, 2020 had to be, for a lot of us, the worst year ever. 2021 was better. It was better for some. Let's hope that 2022 will be even better. So until next time, you know what our commission to you is. Go out and make some noise. See you soon.